Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Sam Kwok here, one of the Kwok Brothers, and welcome back to your next stimulus check news. This is August 11th, 2020, Tuesday, and here is your next stimulus news. Now, some good news is that the key negotiators are returning back to negotiating and putting the final package and a proposal on the table. Now, Secretary of Treasury Steven Mnuchin did say that he doesn't mind going more than $1 trillion for the initial proposal. That's good, because now we're starting to see some compromise, not only from the Democrat senators and Democrat negotiators, and the Republican side, key negotiators are now starting to say, you know what? We don't mind going more than $1 trillion as long as we can make a deal happen. So what does that mean? Well, I want to first come back to the $1,200 direct payment check conversation, because I know that's what you guys have been waiting for. You guys are waiting on, when are we going to get a $1,200 direct payment stimulus check? Now, with the negotiation resuming this week, hopefully we'll see some sort of outcome or results when it comes to the $1,200 direct payment. And it is entirely possible for a new proposal or a new bill to get passed that would kind of complete the picture for the unemployment benefit of $400 a week. And who knows, it may continue or extend at $600 a week with this new proposal. And it could possibly override President Trump's memorandum as far as the unemployment benefit of $400 a week till December 6th or whenever the funding drops down to $25 billion. Now, as far as the question of when can we expect a $1,200 direct payment, if anything gets passed this week, well, the timeline has shifted a little bit, right? Over the last few weeks, we've been tracking different stimulus provisions and proposals on the table, but had the $1,200 direct payment been passed sometime last week or even yesterday, the first set of checks would have been sent out next week. Now, it is never too late for the lawmakers to come to a conclusion or some sort of agreement when it comes to a proposal of an overall stimulus package. If there is an agreement by the end of this week, we could potentially see the $1,200 direct payment following next week. So early September-ish, mid-September is when we can see the first batch of the $1,200 direct payment. So far, everyone seems to be on board with the $1,200 number, although there are some Republican senators and lawmakers that are proposing $1,000 to every individual. Doesn't matter if they're a dependent or an adult. So that could be an interesting idea as well. So instead of being a $1,200 check for an adult and a $500 check for a dependent, it would just be $1,000 for adult and $1,000 for a dependent. So that's the proposal on the table right now, but the $1,200 number seems to be more likely at this point because that's what everyone's on board. Both Democrat senators, the Republican senators, and even President Trump likes the $1,200 number. Also, the key negotiators are coming back together to negotiate whether they should create a mandate for you to go and smash the like button on this video. So definitely go ahead and smash the like button on this video. Help us out with our YouTube algorithm. So all in all, the negotiations are set to continue this week, and it seems like the Republican negotiators are starting to bend a little bit and say, you know what, maybe the executive order wasn't all that effective. It didn't have enough teeth, so therefore we're going to have to start negotiating again with the Democrat senators and the Democrat key negotiators to actually have something on the table and put together a stimulus bill package that's going to go through the Congress, because remember, Congress has the pocketbook, the checkbook for the United States government. So only the Congress can actually move money forward to the American people. So I'll be providing you guys more updates this week as far as what's happening with the negotiation process. Could we possibly see an outcome or an agreement by the end of this week? Possibly. So definitely subscribe to our channel if you guys want the latest update, as well as hit the bell notification icon. Now, just as I promised yesterday, let's go and continue covering and I'm breaking down the memorandum that President Trump issued regarding the payroll tax deferrment, as well as the student loan deferment. So I have the copy right now, and the first thing we're going to cover is going to be the student loan deferment. And this memorandum is extremely short, and there's only a couple of sentences that really matter. So I'll read that for you guys, and I'll give you guys a little breakdown as to what that means. So it says, quote, such deferment, which refers to the student loan deferment, to borrowers as necessary to continue to temporary cessation of payments and the waiver of all interest on student loans held by Department of Education until December 31st, 2020. So here's what that means. If you have a student loan that's backed by the federal government, Department of Education, all student loan payments are to stop and temporarily, right, till December 31st, and all interests are waived to 0%. So what this basically means is that you don't have to make any payments for your student loan. There's no interest that's being accrued on the balance right now till December 31st. And this only applies to student loans that are being backed by the federal government. This does not affect any student loans that are being held by private institutions or private lenders. So if you have a bank or a private lender that's issuing the loan for the student loans, you still have to make payments. It's not covered by this memorandum. But knowing that majority, about 90% of all student loans are backed by the federal government, it's pretty good chance that if you have a student loan, it's backed by the federal government. So you no longer have to make payments till December 31st, and there's no interest till December 31st. And also it says all persons who wish to continue making student loan payments shall be allowed to do so, notwithstanding the deferment provided pursuant to subsection A, which is what we just talked about. So you still have the ability to make payments, which I highly encourage you guys to do so, because right now, if you make any payments to your student loan, every dollar goes right into principal, which means that it helps you pay off your student loans faster. You'll save money on interest, so it saves you both time and money. So I highly encourage you guys, if you have the means to do so, continue making your student loan payments, because it's going to help you guys quite a bit. So that's pretty much the memorandum. I mean, it's really short. It's actually a page and a half. The second page really doesn't count because it's pretty much a boilerplate language that pretty much says, hey, this is what you can do, what you cannot do. So that's pretty simple. The memorandum for payroll tax deferrment. This is very interesting. It says memorandum for the Secretary of Treasury. And here's basically the breakdown of the memorandum. Yes, we all know that this is going to temporarily halt and pause any payroll taxes, but I want to further go down to the details as to what the memorandum exactly says. So under section 2, paragraph A, it says the deferral shall be made available with respect to any employees, the amount of those wages or compensation as applicable, payable during any biweekly payment generally is less than $4,000, calculated on a pre-tax basis. So if you're making $4,000 every 2 weeks or less, your payroll taxes are now deferred. But if you make more than $4,000 every 2 weeks or biweekly payroll period, then you will still pay the payroll tax of roughly about 6.5 to 7.5%. So that's the paragraph. Paragraph B, it says amounts deferred pursuant to the implementation of this memorandum shall be deferred without any penalties, interest, additional amounts, or addition to the tax. So basically it's saying, hey, just halt the payment, don't charge any interest on it, there's no fees, no penalties, it's just gonna be deferred. Now section 4 is where it gets a little interesting. It says tax forgiveness. The Secretary of Treasury shall explore avenues, including legislation, to eliminate the obligation to pay the taxes deferred pursuant to the implementation of this memorandum. So this is basically saying, hey, Secretary of Treasury, which is Stephen Mnuchin, find a way, whether by law or other provision, to make the deferred payroll taxes go away. And we're talking about for those individuals that have their payroll taxes deferred, those that are making $4,000 every 2 weeks or less. So moving forward, if you're not having to pay your payroll taxes because it's deferred, President Trump is saying, hey, figure out a way, either by creating a law through legislation, to get that forgived so that the individual does not have to pay the payroll taxes later down in the future. So that's pretty much what this section says. They're going to try to figure out a way to make that deferred amount forgivable so that you don't have to pay those taxes later down the road. So that's pretty much what the memorandum is. Like I said, we'll have to continue watching what's going on this week because the negotiation is to resume between the key Republican negotiators as well as the Democrat negotiators. And it sounds like the Republican key negotiators are willing to compromise when it comes to the final amount of the bill. Originally, the Republican senators said $1 trillion is all we need. That's it. We're not going any more than that. But now it seems like they're willing to go more than $1 trillion if there is a deal to be made. So we'll have to continue watching, which means that you have to subscribe to our channel if you guys want the latest updates and information as to what's happening to the stimulus package. And as we know, we just updated you guys as far as what happened with President Trump's executive order. All in all, I think President Trump's executive order did help a little bit, but I don't think it had the teeth or necessarily the pressure to actually mount to an effective hit. So what we're counting on now is for the negotiators to come together, find an agreement, and pass something that's going to help the American people. That's what we want. We need unity in this country, not divisiveness. So hopefully we'll get to see some sort of a positive outcome by the end of this week. So with that being said, I'll see you guys tomorrow's update, and stay safe and stay healthy.